Before the legions, before the emperors, and before the republic, there were two brothers, Romulus and Remus. Their story is one of survival, betrayal, and destiny. It is the mythic foundation of Rome, a tale woven into the very identity of Roman civilization. According to legend, Romulus and Remus were born to the Vestal Virgin Rhea Silvia, daughter of Numitor, the rightful king of Alba Longa. Their father was said to be Mars, the god of war, making the twins half-divine from birth. But their birthright put them in danger. Numitor had been overthrown by his brother Romulus, who, fearing the potential threat posed by the twins, ordered them to be drowned in the Tiber River. But fate intervened. The basket carrying the infants drifted ashore near the Palatine Hill. There they were discovered by a she-wolf, who nursed them in a cave called the Lupercal. Later, a shepherd named Faustulus found the boys and raised them with his wife. As they grew, Romulus and Remus became leaders among local shepherds and outlaws, eventually learning the truth of their origins. They overthrew Romulus and restored Numitor to the throne. Then came the moment that would define history, the founding of a new city. The brothers chose the site near the Tiber where they had been saved, but they disagreed over which hill should become the city's heart. Remus favored the Aventine, Romulus the Palatine. To settle the dispute, they sought the god's will through augury, watching the flight of birds. Remus claimed to see 6 vultures, Romulus claimed 12. An argument followed, and in a fit of rage or ambition, Romulus killed his brother. Romulus named the city Rome, after himself. He became its first king, gathered outcasts and fugitives to populate it, and gave it laws. In time he would vanish in a storm, taken by the gods, some said, and worshipped as the divine Quirinus. That is the story most Romans knew, but it is not the only story. An older tale, more ancient in origin, places Rome's foundation not with twin shepherds, but with a Trojan exile, Aeneas. After the fall of Troy, Aeneas fled westward with his father Anchises and son Ascanius, eventually arriving in Latium. There he fought local tribes, forged alliances, and married Lavinia, daughter of King Latinus. Aeneas founded the city of Lavinium, and his son Ascanius went on to found Alba Longa, the city where Romulus and Remus would be born generations later. This alternative lineage gave Rome a noble and ancient pedigree, tying its origins to the epic cycle of Homer. It also served political ends. By the time of Augustus, the Aeneas myth had become central to imperial ideology. Virgil's Aeneid would elevate Aeneas as the pious founder of Rome's destiny, a man who obeyed the will of the gods and laid the foundations for an empire. So where do these stories come from? Much of what we know about Romulus and Remus comes from the historian Livy, writing in the late 1st century BCE. In his Ab Urbi Condita, Livy retells the myth with reverence but also with skepticism. He acknowledges the miraculous elements, the divine conception, the she-wolf, the augury, but he also hints that these may be the embellishments of tradition, more suited to poetic fables than sober history, as he puts it. Plutarch, a Greek writing in the early 2nd century CE, also records the tale in his Life of Romulus, comparing Roman traditions with Greek parallels. He explores the symbolism of the story and notes the varying versions, including accounts where Remus is killed not by Romulus, but by one of his followers. Dionysius of Halicarnassus, another Greek historian in Rome, sought to harmonize the myth with rational history, suggesting that the she-wolf might actually have been a human nurse, since lupa in Latin could also mean a prostitute. Despite the mythic aura of the story, there is material evidence that it was widely known, perhaps even believed, long before these authors wrote it down. Archaeological discoveries have revealed images of the twins suckling the she-wolf dating back to at least the 5th century BCE. Reliefs, pottery, and coins bear the iconic image. One notable example is a bronze coin from the city of Velitrae, struck in the 4th century BCE, depicting the twins beneath the she-wolf's body. These depictions suggest that the myth was already part of Italic cultural consciousness long before Livy or Plutarch recorded it. It was not merely a literary invention, but a deeply rooted tradition. Even the location of Rome's foundation, on the Palatine Hill, has yielded archaeological evidence of Iron Age huts dating to the mid-8th century BCE, roughly the traditional date of Rome's founding, 753 BCE. While this cannot confirm the story of Romulus, it does indicate that people were indeed living on that spot at that time. In the end, the story of Rome's foundation is both myth and memory. It is the story a people told about themselves, about divine ancestry, noble exile, fraternal conflict, and the price of greatness. Whether we believe the legends or not, they shaped how the Romans understood their origins and their destiny. After the death, or apotheosis, of Romulus, Rome entered a new phase of its legendary early history, the era of the kings. Between the mid-8th and late 6th centuries BCE, Roman tradition names 7 kings who ruled in succession. Their reigns, though steeped in myth, were crucial in explaining the origins of Roman institutions, customs, and identity. The first of these was Romulus himself, whose rule was said to have lasted from 753 to 716 BCE. Beyond founding the city, Romulus supposedly established many of Rome's earliest institutions. He created the Senate, made up of 100 patres, the ancestors of Rome's patrician class. He formed the Roman army and initiated Rome's first religious rites. According to Livy, Romulus ruled with force, abducting the Sabine women to provide wives for his men and fighting wars to establish Roman power. His reign ended mysteriously. Some said he was murdered by the Senate. Others claimed he vanished into the sky and was worshipped as the god Quirinus. The second king, Numa Pompilius, offered a stark contrast. Said to have ruled from 715 to 672 BCE, Numa was a Sabine who brought peace and piety to Rome. He reorganized the calendar, introducing the 12-month solar system. He established many religious institutions, the Vestal Virgins, the office of Pontifex Maximus, and cults to gods like Janus and Mars. Where Romulus had brought order through force, Numa shaped Roman identity through ritual and religion. It was under him, tradition claimed, that Rome became a city of laws and gods. Next came Tullus Hostilius, ruling from 672 to 640 BCE. In many ways, he was a return to Romulus's warlike energy. Tullus is most famous for defeating Alba Longa, Rome's Latin rival, and absorbing it into Roman territory. The story of the Horatii and the Curiatii, 3 brothers from each city fighting in single combat, comes from this era. After his victory, Tullus brought the noble Alban families to Rome, folding their traditions and aristocracy into Rome's own. His reign emphasizes Rome's growing dominance and its ability to absorb and Romanize others. Tullus was followed by Ancus Marcius, from 640 to 616 BCE. He was said to have been both warlike and pious, combining the traits of his predecessors. He fought the Sabines and extended Rome's territory westward, founding the port city of Ostia at the mouth of the Tiber. This gave Rome access to salt and sea trade, an essential step toward future expansion. Ancus also built Rome's first bridge across the Tiber, the Pons Sublicius, symbolizing the city's physical and political unification. Then came the 5th king, Lucius Tarquinius Priscus, the first of Etruscan origin. He ruled from 616 to 578 BCE and is credited with massive public works. He expanded the Senate from 100 to 200 members and undertook grand construction projects, draining the Forum to create usable public space, initiating the Cloaca Maxima, Rome's great sewer, and beginning the Circus Maximus for chariot races. His reign reflects the influence of Etruscan culture and the beginning of Rome's transformation into a true city. Tarquin's successor, Servius Tullius, ruled from 578 to 534 BCE. He too was likely of Etruscan background. According to tradition, Servius was born a slave in the royal household, but through merit, or fate, became king. His reforms were fundamental to Roman society. He divided the population into centuries and tribes, creating a new system for military service and voting in the assembly. This became the basis of the Comitia Centuriata, the Roman voting body organized by wealth. Servius also built a new defensive wall around the city, the Servian Wall, and constructed the Temple of Diana on the Aventine, promoting unity among Latin cities. These kings, with their mix of violence, piety, engineering, and reform, represent more than individual rulers. Most scholars agree that the stories of Rome's first 6 kings are largely mythological. There is little archaeological or textual evidence to confirm their historicity. Instead, their reigns serve a didactic purpose. They explain to Romans where their key institutions came from: the Senate, the calendar, the census, religious offices, even urban infrastructure. In the absence of written records, these myths gave the past a structure and purpose. They connected Rome to the divine, to the Etruscans, to the Latins, and to their own sense of destiny. The 7th and final king was Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, Tarquin the Proud. He ruled from 534 to 509 BCE and embodied all the fears Romans came to associate with tyranny. According to Livy and Dionysius of Halicarnassus, Tarquin seized power violently, assassinating his father-in-law Servius Tullius. He ruled without the Senate's consent, executed rivals, and ignored tradition. Under his reign, Rome saw great building projects, including the Temple of Jupiter Optimus Maximus on the Capitoline Hill, but at a terrible moral cost. The event that sparked his downfall and the end of monarchy in Rome was not political but personal. Tarquin's son, Sextus Tarquinius, raped a noblewoman named Lucretia. She was the wife of Collatinus, a Roman noble and known for her virtue. After the assault, Lucretia called her husband and father, confessed the crime and took her own life to preserve her honor. Her death ignited outrage. A young noble named Lucius Junius Brutus took the lead. At Lucretia's funeral, he held up her bloody body and called on Romans to drive out the Tarquins. He swore a solemn oath: never again would Rome be ruled by kings. The people rose. Tarquin and his family were expelled. The monarchy was abolished. In its place, Rome established the Republic, with Brutus and Collatinus as its first consuls. The expulsion of Tarquin became one of the founding myths of Roman identity. The story of Lucretia, the virtuous woman violated by tyranny, became a symbol of Roman liberty. Brutus, the liberator, gave his name to a family that would later resist tyranny again, most famously in the assassination of Julius Caesar. For the Romans, the lesson was clear. Kings were dangerous and liberty was sacred. From Romulus to Tarquin the Proud, Rome's early history is a tapestry of myth, memory, and invention. It offers a moral and institutional blueprint. The kings teach Romans who they are: builders, warriors, priests, and lawmakers. But they also teach what Rome must never be again: a kingdom ruled by one man's will.